Okay, so I'm going to start by showing you that I just made a standard SharePoint calendar here. So basically just doing add an app, and then I chose the calendar app, and so I can do that by doing calendar, and I just used the standard out of the box calendar and gave it a name. Okay, so these are the calendar app templates that I was using. And so I'm going to go back, and here's the calendar that resulted from that. I added a few events just so that I could format my gallery and stuff. If you don't have any events in there, you're kind of working blind. So I always put at least one item in there. I think I also changed the categories for the new events. So once I have it, now I'm going to connect to this. So I need the site name. So I'm going to highlight the URL, and then I'm going to go to PowerApps and click Create a New App. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to get to this area, Start with Your Data. And the Start with Your Data area, I love it because it kind of does a bunch of stuff for you. So I'm going to use this. Don't forget also on this page, you also have a bunch of templates that you can use in addition to your blank app formats. So here's SharePoint. I'm going to click on phone layout here. And now I'm going to paste that URL. When I do that and click go, it will show me all the custom lists in that SharePoint site. But just because it doesn't show me the libraries and the calendars and the task lists, I can still get them. I just have to click into this blank area and type the name of the list, and then just click that line, and that little button called connect will show up. Now, it's going to start doing a lot of magic for me. While it's doing that, I just want to point out that what you want to type there is this display name. So whatever people see when they're looking at the calendar and they see the name at the top, that's exactly what you want to type. Because when you're typing in that box, it's looking for a list with that display name, whereas everything else is internal. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to just scroll up and show you that we do have, let me just go over here and show you that you end up with your 3 app screens: browse, display, and detail, browse, detail, and edit. And you'll just maybe do a few, cleanups to get it the way you want it to be. I will get rid of this field. Now this field has HTML in it. It's the description field, and that's because calendar items are HTML on SharePoint. But right now I'm not going to worry about that, but I will show you how to correct that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to the title field as opposed to deleting it. And the reason is because I don't want to, I can fix what happened. I'll just kind of show you what happened. So I'm going to hit delete here. When I hit delete, there's going to be an error message that's going to appear. So let me just show you that. I love being transparent with you guys. And what that is that this particular field up here, and let's use our new Explorer view to select it. This particular field right here had a relative position to that control I just removed. And so now it can't find what it relates to, so it's giving an error. All I have to do is kind of move it down, that error will go away because I've removed that relative relationship by moving it down. And so I'm just going to change this one, and I'm going to use our right-hand panel here to change this to title. Now, one thing I might do, because these come from default layouts, they're already named, I might rename them to match what I've done, right? This is my event title. And this one is my event date. Okay. Oops, sorry. That name is already used. So let's call this calendar date just for this moment here. Okay. And now I have those two. Now I might just, make this bigger and stuff like that. So, and I want to show you how I made the tiles. So you might be wondering how I made the tiles. But let me just, before I do that, I'm going to set the auto height on the title to true. And this will enable the thing to grow bigger as it if there's a bigger title, it'll grow taller. So that's why I do auto height. Over here in the properties panel, you also have that available. We have a brand new properties panel that kind of puts everything here that you use the most. So you can toggle auto height on and off as opposed to typing true and false up here. Kind of a neat enhancement that we gave you. So now I'm going to zoom all the way out because I'm going to do something interesting to this gallery. I'm going to, instead of having rows of data here, I'm going to actually tile it. So I wanted to show you this live step by step, and then I'll walk through the rest of the app. So I'm going to stay on this properties panel, and I'm going to change my wrap count to 2. And you'll notice that that kind of tiles it. Then I'm going to delete these blue icons because I don't need them. And take the template of this gallery and make it tall, so tile-like. Now, another thing I want to do is over here, I'm going to select the screen, and then I'm going to give the screen a gray background. And you'll see why. I want the template to really show up here. So I'm going to change the template of this gallery to be white. So you'll see there's a property called template fill, and I'm going to make that white. And just by hitting tab, it replaces any errors I have in capitalization. So now the template fill is white. The other thing that's going on is the gallery is filling the whole page. I'm going to give it a little bit of padding. Let's pad it around 25. And now you can see between these tiles to the screen. So this is how I made the tiles for this app. And then I would just format them. Like for instance, I would, kind of make this bowl and I might make it a little bit smaller. Let's do, yeah, that's fine. And I also did on these tiles is I put a little banner up here. So let's move this out of the way and I'm going to insert and to make sure that I'm going to insert a rectangle. And I'm just going to put it up here on the top. Now, whenever you insert something, it is automatically on the top layer so that if I put this up here, it will be hidden because it's behind it. So if I want to get that in the front, I'm just going to do home and I'm going to do reorder, bring to front, and then I'm going to give it a color or whatever else I want to do so that it shows up here well. So that's how I did the tiles on this app. Now, as far as the details screen, I kind of played around and made it perfect. And we'll go look at the app and kind of break it out and see inside of it. As far as this screen, I did quite a few of edits on this because I wanted it to look more like the tile as well. Now, I think I moved this down. Hold on, let's just move this down. I'll highlight from the breadcrumb. You can also highlight from here. And then I'll move this down. And then I might have also put a rectangle up here. I also, anytime I didn't want this stuff to show up, I would, delete it or move it. I do want to point out that this particular field right here, I'm going to unlock it, is looking at the parent default. But I'm going to open up a new one. I just want to show you an interesting thing that I learned about this calendar that you might find helpful. I'm going to run this and create a new one so that it's blank. And I just want to show you something about the start time and the end time. So when you're looking for them, let's see. I'm going to just use the browse gallery here. Browse gallery 1 dot you see that it doesn't have, okay, let's do selected and then start. There's no actual start date in the list, even though it says start date below. Well, that's because start date is also event date to SharePoint. And so that caused me a little bit of confusion, but just don't look for start, look for event date, and with end time, you just look for end date. Okay, so they're a little bit different than what they're shown here. And so you'll find that when you go to change things, that you don't see the same text that you see on SharePoint. Don't let that confuse you. It's just the way they're handling it. So I shouldn't be using created here. I should be using event date, which is the same as start date. And if we take a peek over here in the data tab, you'll see, I believe we have some little parentheses, yes. So you see here, it's actually end time, start time, event time, type. These parentheses are showing what they come up with as far as in the formula bar. So don't be surprised when you notice that event date is start time and end date is end time. Okay, so those were the two biggies I wanted to show you. And then there's one last biggie I wanted to show you that I learned. And, these are things that I feel like I spent time figuring out, but I don't want you to figure out. Down here on the bottom, you may notice that the description is in HTML format. Well, that's not going to show up well in your app, so you need to change this control. So what I will do is I will look and see what the name of the control is, and you can do that in a couple of ways. I'm going to look down here. I see I'm in data card value 6. So I'll go to data card 6, open that up, which will show me data card value 6. Now my zooming is going to impact this. And the only thing for me is I need it bigger. But if you hover over it, it should give you the whole name. Or you can just look at the breadcrumb on the bottom. So the reason I want to know the name is because I want to replace this with a control of the same name. That way I don't have to change a lot of the properties. So again, I'm going to select data card value 6. And normally what I used to do is copy and paste up here from the name of the control. And so we don't have that there anymore, and that will help you to use the more user-friendly data card value 6. But I can't copy. I think if I, okay, yes, I'm going to double click and then I'm going to Control C there, and that copies the name. So now I'm going to add a new control to here. So first I'm going to do unlock. And then I'm going to insert an HTML control, and that looks like that, HTML. And then I'm going to set the value of this to this item description. I'm going to delete the old control and rename the new one what I copied and pasted, so that it's named the same exact thing. It's a couple of properties that's important there. So just to save you some time, it's a little bit easier than redoing all the properties to have the same name. And then I can make this as big or as small as I need to so that it fits the size of the text, which is in some cases pretty long because we put some long descriptions in there. I'm going to select my data card value and then just make it taller and then move it down a little. And so let's go back and try this. I'm going to click on this one. Well, I didn't set the on select. So also I didn't want to use the blue, the chevrons. So what I decided to do instead is set the on select for my title to go to that other screen. So on select, and then I go to the action menu and I select my details screen there. And now when I click on the title, it will go to the details screen. And you'll see that it will not look like HTML anymore. I did notice some performance issues with this HTML fill, and we're working on it, so it's a known issue. All right, so now that that's done, let me take you in it's finished and kind of walk the rest. That was kind of like the hardest part, the tiles, and then, well, second hardest. I'll show you the hardest part, but the second hardest is that, how do you get your tiles to look like that? And then also, how do you get rid of the HTML format for the description? So I wanted you to see that clearly. Now, I'm not going to keep this app, actually. It was just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to go to the app that's finished and open that up so we can walk through some of the other details, because this app has a lot of great features and functionality in it. And everything was pretty easy to do. I'll show you the one thing that was, I would consider pretty complicated, but the rest was very easy. Okay, we're getting things ready for you. We're loading those screens. And here we are in basically the finished app. And you'll see that I used tiles. I also put the start and end date up here as I kind of reformatted my date a little bit, gave it a little snazz, a little swagger or something. And then when I hover over a title, and this is the hover property that I used, which we can look at. And then I also put a link to the SharePoint site itself, so that if you wanted to view this event on SharePoint, you would just click the SharePoint icon, and that will enable you to see any maybe attachments that might be on that event until we add that attachments feature, which is coming really soon. And then I have a mapping icon here. This one is actually going to take you to the floor plan. Now, I can't show you this one, how I did this, because this is internal to Microsoft. But I can tell you, if you have a floor plan, I can tell you how to configure it to your floor plan. And then finally, I have a map feature that enables you to open up a map that tells you how to get there to building 43. Now, I'm going to go back to the app and point out that we have one more feature, which is kind of like my favorite feature that I added here. And that's this add to calendar feature. So this is my detail screen. And here's that HTML control that we talked about. And I kind of just made everything else bigger. Here's my link to SharePoint. But I have this add to calendar. And what it shows me is a whole list of all the calendars the user has. And if they click yes, it actually adds the event to their calendar. So the one thing I didn't do that now that I'm talking to you that I want to do is I will actually want to not show any event that's in the past, which I didn't do. So I can always filter my my gallery so that it only shows future events. So I didn't do that, but I just thought of it just now. So I want to point out how this was done and this Google map situation. So this is actually the icon. So all I did was insert the icon from here that looks like a calendar. So the first icon on the bottom there and the second icon came from right here. The icon for the map, I actually got that from Bing, and I added it as part of my media. So you'll see that if I go to media, there were files that I uploaded to here. The Google map, the SharePoint icon. I actually made a dialog box directly in PowerPoint and then saved it as a picture to put that here. And then I also created these two start and stop buttons. And basically, I wanted to use them as an indicator of beginning and end of meeting. Just, I don't know, Audrey's little creativity there. So I want to talk about this one first. If we go to the onSelect property of this one, you'll see that I'm simply launching my way into Google Maps. So let's see if I can zoom this for you. Yeah, okay. So Normally I would only have to launch up to place and then do and location. But the way we're doing our calendar, and you don't have to do this, I mean, you shouldn't have to do this, is that we always put building 44 or building 33 or building 900, whatever the building number is. So I pre-configured my URL to include Microsoft building, which is the same format they use on the Google map. And then I dug out, like literally using a mid function, which you can find details on mid in both Excel and on our PowerApps community. The mid function to pull the building number, which is a 2-digit number, out of the mid statement. And I probably should have done 3 in case it's a building 100 something. So then when I launch that on select that I'm sorry. When I launch that on select command, it's going to open up Google Maps. Now, here's what you can do to learn how to do this is just type an address in here. Let's change this to building 44 just for fun. All right, so now we've changed the address. Go ahead to Google Maps and do a search for a particular address. And then copy and paste the URL that it returns back to you. And now you can put it in Notepad and you can learn how it does things. And so in this case, it looks up the longitude and latitude for you, which is awesome, which is primarily the reason why I used it to here. And then it shows me the address. So pretty easy stuff. The other thing I'm going to show you is, let's have my thing disappear, is this one here. So this one has an on select of cal button equals true. So actually what it's saying is that the calendar button has been clicked is true. And what that does is shows the dialog box. And let me just click on that. And there's the dialog box. Because the dialog box itself has a visible property, and we can look at that over here. No, we can't. So let's look over here, and let's see what the visible property says. If the cal button equals true, then show this, otherwise false. So this is only visible if cal button is true. So by clicking on that and setting cal button to true, I'm showing all the items in this dialog box. And literally, I just layered them here so that they could be seen. And the dialog box I told you I made in PowerPoint, I put it in my design folder, then I uploaded it as media. So to upload your media, you just click on media. And then you browse to your design folder where you've put all your media, and then you can just add them all, right? I had a few things here. All right, so that's how I did that. Now, this box right here, this is showing all of the current users' calendars. So you'll notice if I run this, I have quite a few calendars, right? And that's just the selection I get in Outlook. I get to choose how many calendars I show up, right? So to get that list of calendars that the customer has so that they can pick which calendar they want to put it on, you need to add the Office 365 Outlook calendar connection. So let's do data sources, and you'll notice I have here the Office 365 calendar connection. So I just did add connection and added that with my file. And then I pasted in here this little function. And what I do is when I'm planning my app, I actually do a little bit of a prototype without thinking about look and feel, just learning how the connectors work, and then I'll just play with them until I figured out how I get what I want. And then I'll put them in a little OneNote like this, a little text file like this, so that I can use them when I start building my app, okay? So this get tables value is what fills up that drop down. And then this right here, and this is the hardest part of this app. Everything else in this app is really super new user friendly. This is a little bit complicated. So if we look at this, I'm going to open this up in picture format real quick. So I'm going to open up my design folder, and I'm going to open up this picture so we can look at this function up close. So the yes button is what will add it to the calendar. So we have to pass parameters from the app into the Outlook calendar. So the parameters being the name of the event date, start date, end date, as well as the description in HTML format as well. Otherwise, we'll get that HTML text in our calendar. And then finally, we have to put the location in there. So all of these is the syntax for adding a new calendar item. And you can check this out in our connector documentation. Now, after I add the item, then what I do is I update the context so that the dialog, so in this case, this is a different one. This was the test one. It should say calendar button equals false, because whatever we set to true when we clicked on that calendar button, we want to set it to false after we add the calendar so that the dialog box disappears. Now, the reason I say this is the hardest part is because when I was reading the documentation, I didn't figure this out very well. And so I'm giving you that so you'll have it and you'll have to figure it out. Okay? So that's that. And it'll be all of my design text file except for my private SharePoint URL and the private URL for our floor plans will be in the attachment so that you can have these formulas and you can edit them. So remember that. Let me just show you that what you'll have to edit. So I have DD calendars, for instance, here. That's the name of the drop down. So drop down calendars. So you'd have to change this to be whatever the name of your drop down is. If you do app from starting from data like I did in this demo, then you should have the same gallery names. So you'll use Browse Gallery 1, but if you start from scratch and you have a different gallery name, then you'll need to replace that. But other than that, this is the default for how to get the information out of the calendar in SharePoint and get it into your calendar in Outlook. Okay, and I'll attach that text file. So basically, this was, I would say, on a scale to 1 to 10, a really easy app to do. Like one of my favorite apps that I've ever done, mostly because I was able to do it on a flight. This no button, I didn't mention it, but the no button is just going to do the same thing as we were doing at the end of this, which is updating that context variable to false so that that's no longer visible. So this setting is to true to show it, and this is setting it to false to hide it. Basically, if you have a floor plan application of some kind, you want to set your launch to that. And so that's why it's really important to learn the launch function, because you can actually launch any online application with a query string and then get information from that or show the user information from that. You can use it in a flow. For instance, you can the flow can be looking for a path from your app, and you can use the launch for that. You can also use it for mail to, so you would use a mail to prefix, and you can use it for tel, T-E-L, colon. If you put that prefix in the launch, then you'll be able to make a phone call directly on your phone from the data in your app. So it's really cool. Learn the launch function. It's an awesome function, and basically it helped me quite a bit with all of my icons, all the features that I had in my app. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I think this is a really great example of how we can, kick our apps up a notch. Let PowerApps do the majority, the heavy lifting, your search, your filters, your sorting, and then edit those things. And then just use your property panels to extend the app and make it more interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll make your first calendar app too. Take care and happy Power Apping.